So we're recording and live.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to be starting the Newburyport Historical Commission meeting for the 27th of October in just a few minutes. We're just allowing a minute or two for additional people to join the Zoom meeting. We have one panelist or a commissioner that I'm hoping to join, and I see our applicant Walt Thompson has joined, so that's good. So we'll be getting started in just a minute. At 7:01 we'll start with or without Biff, because we will have a quorum without him anyway.
I'm here.
Oh, you're there. There you are. Did you just join, Biff?
I did, yes, just 30 seconds ago.
Oh, okay, well then we're all here. So let's officially call the meeting to order. We can get her done, as was once famously said. Officially starting the virtual meeting of the Newburyport Historical Commission for the 27th of October, 2022. Please be aware that this meeting, like all such virtual meetings, is being recorded. So we'll start with a roll call, and I'll tell you what, today I'll do it in reverse alphabetical order just to change things up. That would mean Joe Morgan.
Here.
You're here. Okay. Christopher Fay.
Here.
Thank you. Hang on a second. I made a mistake here. Mark Syndrome.
Yes, here.
Okay. Biff Baus.
Here.
Okay. And Andrew Bernhardt.
Here.
Okay. Very good. Now let me do one little thing here. And we just have one thing on tonight's agenda. I'll, just to save time, I'll go over the rules about public comment period if there is one, because there may or may not be one. So hang on just a moment here. Okay, so 100 State Street. This is oh, getting an echo there. I don't know what happened just then. A DOD or Downtown Overlay District Advisory Review. You probably know that this is the most restricted zoning area in the city. Alterations to historic buildings need to have a special permit from the planning board. And our job is to draft a report or send a report to the planning board with our opinions as to whether the alteration is appropriate or whether it will adversely impact the historical value of the structure. So tonight we're going to hear from Walt Thompson. He's the applicant for 100 State Street. That's an old, well, it's a federal style brick building near a few doors down from High Street. You've probably seen it many times. Probably a former residential, but now commercial building. So let's see. Do we have Walt's audio enabled, Caitlin? Walt, can you see if, you'll need to unmute yourself on your end so we can hear you, and you can tell us about your plans. Excuse me.
And thank you very much for hearing our application. 100 State Street is a historic building. Yes, and you see it pictured here. Next. We can go to the next picture, which I think shows the outside of it.
Yeah, you're coming. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Walt. You're kind of low and muffled. If you can either get, I'm not sure if it's a question of closer to a microphone or do something, it would be a little better. We can hear you, but it's just kind of a bit low and a bit muffled sounding. But yeah, please continue.
I'll try this.
It's a wee bit better. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is the front of the building. Next. And this is the side that I use. You can see our driveway in the foreground. It's a deeded driveway with two deeded parking spaces. Next, please. Across the street on your left is the Institution for Savings. Next, please. And this is a little bit of a close-up of the entrance to Unit 2, my unit. And as you see, it's a 3-story Federalist building with no gutters on the top. And so this means that the runoff from the roof impacts my wife and I and guests as we enter and exit the building. And this is why we're asking for some remediation. Next, please. This is a little more of a close-up. We had originally thought that we would have pillars on either side, but because of the style of the railings and the steps there, that's not practical. So we're looking for a overhang approval. And that really does show you how much rain comes down from 3 stories up. Next, please. This is the same entrance from another angle. Next, please. And a close-up. What we're looking for is something that will stick out. Would be towards the left here, about 3.5 feet, to provide protection for us from the rain that comes from the roof. Next, please. Some of the particulars around 1800. It was a single-family home. It was converted to condominiums 1999. There are 6 condominiums in the building, and 3 more are an attached townhouse to the rear. Next, please. A little dialogue about the architectural and historical significance. We include this in the if this building could talk that's put on every year. Next, please. And that's just the end of it, what we saw just previously. Next, please. Here you have more formal Carter Tilton House, 1795 to 1800. And that's us. It's a beautiful house, and we love it. Next, please. This shows almost like an aerial view. You see the driveway on the right. To the right is the municipal parking lot at State and Harris, and the proposed overhang about 38 feet back from State Street. Next, please. Black and white. What's notable here is that you see a light on the right-hand side. That light is going to stay. In the pictures that I've provided, you'll see a light in the proposed overhang that will not be part of the proposed construction. Next, please. Just some specifics, roughed out, 4 feet 6 inch wide by 3 feet 6 inch deep and about 4 feet high. We need the depth because of the volume of rain that comes off the top and from that distance. Next, please.
That's the last slide.
That's it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Unmute myself here. Thank you, Walter. Just give me 1 second here. So by the way, let me correct myself. I said this, I was thinking of the building next door and I said it was commercial now. Apparently, so that's it's residential. It's like condos and stuff. Is that correct, Walter?
Yes, sir. It's all those 102 State Street is next door, and it's a commercial and residential, but we are all we're all paying property taxes and business here.
Right. Okay. Okay. So do you understand the process here, Walter? You need a special permit for the from the planning board, and the historical commission presents a report to them about the house's historical significance and so on. And then they make the ultimate decision. We do not. We just make give our opinion to the planning board as to whether we think that the alteration is going to have an adverse impact on the historical values or value of the structure. It's interesting you commented that you originally wanted to do something with pillars. Caitlin, do you have the examples? I went around to try to find some examples, and what I found was, well, first of all, it's hard to find a federal building with any like in the well, the lower one, I'm not sure it's quite technically federal, but most of them have a front entrance like the one in the lower one here, where there's no or very, very short overhang. Some of them have that little enhanced, if you will, entrance, like the one on the top, which has two columns and a little roof in this case. And in this, when it's in the front, they often will add like that little balustrade and that sort of thing. What it is showing in these two examples is when there's a side entrance, the most of the ones I found around town were enclosed like this. And you can go ahead, go to page 2 there, Caitlin. And this is one that may have been kind of what you were originally thinking, but I can appreciate the problem you've got with the iron railing there. But this is more typically what you'd see, what you would expect as for that period of architecture.
Point, Richard, because that's exactly what the front of our building looks like. We have the pillars in the front of the building. I took a look at the Bullard House at 346 or 346 High Street, and it has a bit of a overhang, doghouse, what do you call it? Maybe I don't know if I'm on camera or not, but I'll hold this up.
No, we don't have any video for you. What was the address, Walter?
That's 346 High Street, Bullard, Bullard. 1780 has been suggested as the construction date.
Mm-hmm.
And it is what I looked at to get, after I Googled overhangs, this was the closest I could find to that. We're not married to this design. We like it. It's been approved by the Board of Trustees of the Condo Association.
Right.
But it can be modified or changed with flexible, of course.
Okay. Well, what I typically do, and what I'm about to do now, is go around the commissioners to get their input, so that I can then draft a report that incorporates the various opinions of the commissioners. So maybe I'll revert back to alphabetical order or in order particular. So I'll start with Andrew. I think you're closest to the A's. Have you any thoughts on the proposed plans here as far as what you'd like to see included in a report to the planning board on this? With us?
Sorry, I just want to make sure. Is that question directed to me or? Sorry,
No,
I'm sorry.
And Andrew
I
Bernhardt.
was muted.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was muted. I'm sorry.
No problem.
The last picture you showed, not his design. Can you just put that back up? The one that you showed with the pillars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand his need for the pillars. I kind of like the design of the top of that though, compared to what he has with the siding, with their ornate siding.
Oh, you mean the brackets?
The brackets, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the brackets might be a little overdone. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll throw my own opinion in here that the brackets are from a later architectural period that
Okay.
would not have appeared on a federal period house.
Right.
Okay. And I, by the way, I did take a quick look over at the street view for 346 High. So thanks for rendering that or mentioning it to us, Walter. Just for the sake of the other folks, if you can do that if you like. But basically, it's got a little roof similar to the one we're looking at now, only there are no pillars. They're just a straight, not a bracketed support, just a straight like 45-degree supporting. Not sure what you call it, beam or whatever. A very simple support thing. And I did see one other one like that around the city. It's kind of well, I'll hold off my further opinion on that. All right, let's see. Biff, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's like that's a strange cantilever kind of design they have. Although I do on the 346 High Street side entrance, it's very much like this one here that's shown, just without those columns. And I think that is closer to a design that should probably be looked at. It's like you were saying, those brackets wouldn't at all be appropriate. I don't think the style of them. It definitely needs to be a much more classical referenced, very pretty non-ornate look to it. So I think that would be key.
Yeah, I would agree. And even on the side entrances, obviously they're not going to get as fancy as on the front, even when they do go so far as to have columns like the one that's on the screen now, but they wouldn't have, pediments and all that fancy stuff going on. In fact, I'm a little surprised this one even has those, I think they're called pilasters, where you sort of see the half column against the house there.
Right.
Okay. All right. Mark Syndrome, thoughts?
Not any other thoughts that have been expressed. I don't think the style of the proposed change is totally appropriate, and I think what is shown right now on the image is probably what should be encouraged.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And Joe, Christopher Fay.
Yeah, I would concur. I have nothing more to
Anything
add.
new?
So I would agree with what's been said.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
I'm not, there's one thing I'm not clear about is the visibility of the side. This is a pretty small, insignificant, is this entrance used from the parking lot, or why are people entering on the side of the building? Where are they coming from?
May I answer that question?
Yeah, go ahead, Walter. Why don't you answer that?
What you're seeing pictured here are the 2 deeded parking spaces that are assigned to that unit, my unit. And that's the only entrance we have.
Okay.
Then on the other side of our unit, which goes out into the common area where the mailboxes are and an exit door. So it's only used by Carol and myself. And
okay, and the picture is taken from the vantage point of the sidewalk here. Are we seeing this from the sidewalk?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be helpful. Caitlin, I'm one of the, I was just going to say, so Joe, this in a way is, there you see the door. It's kind of, there's some kind of shrubbery there that's partly concealing it. And as you walk up the State Street, that there's a couple of evergreens there that would also tend to obscure the view. So that's a factor. Does that, you think that sort of, do you think if there was a little rooflet, I'm not sure what they would call that little, overhang, little small roof. It's maybe Joe, you probably know the correct architectural term for that, but with either, if it can't be cantilevered and needs some further support from below, or technically, I suppose, even above.
Well, it's so small. The brackets are substantial enough to support it. I mean, I don't think it's really a structural issue. It's really, in my mind, it's not on the main facade of the building. It's serving. It's not a public entry. It's serving specifically the needs of the tenant, of the owner, for their unit to access it from their deeded parking. It's in a side alley, if you will. It is going to be visible from the street. I mean, it's clearly you can see how it would be visible from the sidewalk in the street. But
Right.
I don't think, even though it would not be historically accurate as a detail, I don't believe it's going to, if what's proposed is going to detract considerably. What I'm trying to get at is does the problem require a solution that is historically accurate and would require additional work? I'm exactly sure how you would place the columns in a way, because it's not just a question of a small step landing at grade. You've got a raised landing and a rail, so you've got to have those rails because it's a code requirement. So you would have to modify all of that in order to accommodate the columns, which are purely pastiche anyway. They're not going to be structural. They might be, but they're not needed. So I guess my feeling is that it might be the requirement for his historically accurate solution may be overkill here if the proposed solution can be easily removed in the future without any damage to the building. So I would see it as a temporary solution to accommodate a problem that they're having, which is the rain dripping from the eave. I mean, there might be another solution for that. I don't know, like adding a gutter, perhaps. I don't know. That would have its own historical impact. But my feeling is that given the problem, that the solution should be somewhat commensurate with the scope of the problem. And I feel that it's perfectly adequate what's being proposed. So that, that's my 2 cents.
Okay. And Walter, just so I understand, that illustration that you showed, that's obviously not your building, because it had clapboards and everything. It's another building you found somewhere that had an overhang that you thought might be of the type you could use. The other one, too bad you all, basically, if you all can imagine, that overhang, that instead of Italianate style brackets, it just had a straight, in lieu of the, it was more like those like the one at, so I'm sorry, I keep meandering here, but it's like the one at 346 High is a very simple execution of something like that. It does have the horizontal part that goes across the bottom of the triangle there, the 2 segments of that form the little roof. It has the part that goes across the front to make it more, a little bit more complete. And it doesn't have, and it's instead of, the only real difference is that rather than, brackets that harken back to a Victorian or Italianate type style, it just has a straight bracket, clearly there, strictly for structural purposes. And I think, Joe, to your point, that that given its size, location, functionality, removability, et cetera, it's not, just if a straight cantilever, especially where it's how's he want it to be like some 3.5 feet deep, that might be too much weight to just sort of bolt onto the side. I honestly don't know. That would be for someone else to figure out. But if it had to be supported in some way, just a straight member would be preferable to something that was trying to serve some decorative function that wouldn't be, that would clash with the rest of the federal architecture. So, and just to be clear, I don't think anyone is suggesting that he tried to do something that looks like it was original. That's not necessarily, it's neither necessary nor even necessarily recommended by the guidelines, but it should at least be compatible and not, kind of jarring, if you will. Does that make sense? What I just said?
May I add one thing?
Sure.
Yeah,
That's Biff, right?
Yeah, this Biff. I was just looking at again at the other, was it 349 High Street?
346.
346. Yeah. I I think the way they've done it isn't probably the best solution, but I think that I think the thing that's most jarring is on this proposed picture is just that it has all the curves in it and whatnot.
Right.
And there are federal style corbels that would do the same thing, and everything else about it would be, basically the same look. And that wouldn't necessarily look like it's trying to fit in, and because you wouldn't have the columns and this whole portico built out from the side. But if it just had something, like I was saying earlier, just something more simplified, and not so. These just seem very heavy.
Right.
And no, like they're trying to show that they're made of wood. I mean, that's kind of part of the look of those. So I think that's really the only issue I see. I think I see with that, and I think that could be easily fixed with just getting a more federal style appropriate kind of
right, a lighter touch on those on those brackets. Or
exactly.
All right. One last thing, and there's a question for Mr. Morgan, since you're the former architect. What would you, if that was just like a straight 45-degree, what is there a name for that particular structure, part of the structure?
I'm sorry, Glenn. I really,
No?
I'm really totally ignorant on these architectural issues. I mean, on these historical questions. I'm really trying to just. The only way I can really approach the problem is by looking at the practicality of the solution that's being proposed. I don't know what's appropriate historically as the detail that would be appropriate for the for historical authenticity. I'm really completely I'm illiterate.
Okay, well, that's and that's not really what I was asking about anyway. What I was really asking was much more simple than that. It was just that I know that something like what we're looking at now, they refer to them as brackets. I didn't know if you would still call it a bracket if it was just a straight piece of wood.
I would call it a bracket. Anything that projects like that from the building at an angle upward to capture a cantilever, I would call that a bracket.
Okay. Well then.
Yes, a bracket would be the architectural term.
Oh, okay. That's all I was really asking. So we're just looking at a different style of bracket. All right. So Walter, Mr. Thompson, what we'll do is, so we've gone around the commission. I think I've got a pretty good sense of, and that we all seem to be looking at this about the same way. I think I don't hear anyone striking a note of violent opposition to you solving, what Joe Morgan was described as, the practical problem you're trying to solve, which is to be able to get in and out without getting soaked from the runoff from the gutterless roof there. So, and given the size, the location, everything else, I think a design could be come up with, could be found that would give you what you need at a reasonable cost. Doesn't have to be an elaborate thing as some of the examples I showed. So what I'll do is I'll write that all up for the planning board with as how we see this thing, and it'll go from there. Do you have any other questions or comments before we close this particular matter?
Yes, and I appreciate everybody's comment, and I too did not like the swales or whatever you would call it, wood there, but being that the rain over a course of 3 feet or 3 stories down tends to splash out at about 3 feet from the doorway.
Right.
I was faced with having a bracket that would go out further than just what appears to be on the one at 346. And so going out that far, I needed some way to keep it from falling. And I'm not a contractor nor an architect, so I picked this, but I appreciate everybody's comments and I look forward to revising this as needed.
Okay. Can you see yourself doing something similar to what is at 346 High Street?
Yes, if it was out a little further.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it would be scaled to your particular problem, to your particular situation. Yeah.
And it seems to be out 6 to 12 inches, which might look nice, but it wouldn't reduce the amount of water that we get.
I wonder if we're looking at the same thing. The one I'm looking at that one thing on High Street is the side entrance. There's a side entrance that has a little roof and just straight board brackets. That's just a straight piece of wood or whatever it is. That's very, very simple in construction, but it looks fine. And the little roof itself has got the design is sort of reminiscent of a lot of that triangular pediment that's on many federal entrances. So it doesn't look weirdly out of place so much. So yeah, take a look at that side, and I can maybe through the planning office. I also saw, I think I have a photo I took actually of on Green Street, a federal period or close enough period building that also had something very similar. It had a bracket, but it was just a very straight, simple bracket, light, not real heavy, not ornate, that I think would be probably be more appropriate, less jarring. All right, so we will follow up on that, and I'll send you those things so you can take a look at those and work with whoever it is you're working with, your contractor, builder, architect, whatever, to see what you can come up with.
We haven't gotten one of those yet because we haven't gotten to that stage. But
right.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Okay, so that will end the discussion of 100 State Street. The other things are under general, there are no demo delay hearings or anything like that. Under general business, Andy Port, did you have any updates? If not, I'll just go ahead with, I just have a couple minor things.
No, thank you.
Okay, then I was going to mention two things. You recall 6 Washington Street? That was a very nice Italianate house that we've talked about a couple times in these meetings. This is just an FYI. They did make some further changes to their plans, and they do go before the planning board on November 2nd. I'm not planning on writing additional, report or anything, should be anything like that for the additional plans or the updated plans. I personally think they're slightly better in that I think they differentiate the new from the old better, which was a concern of mine. It seemed their old design, I don't know, just seemed too many brackets, too imitative. I don't know, just seemed a little too much to my personal view anyway. But the siding still goes all the way down to the bottom. So that's just, I agree with Joe on that. Just, even if it was on a different house, it still looks a little odd, but that's neither here nor there. So anyway, if you would like to, November 2nd is when the planning board will hear that. You're perfectly welcome to attend and speak as a member of the public. If not, obviously we can't individually speak on behalf of the commission, but you're certainly welcome to make a public comment. I think, Caitlin, that can also be submitted if someone can't make that meeting but wants to submit something in writing. Can they just send like an email to you or something?
Absolutely. You can send an email to me and I can send it to the planning board as a comment letter.
Okay, thank you. The other update I had was that I've been working on a review of the preservation restriction for the old jail complex. This is a more complex one than usual. Not to overuse that word, but just expect that we'll be taking another look at that. The Historical Commission approved a version of the preservation restriction back in like the summer of 2019. I think Chris Fay was the only member that's presently on the board that was here back then. And both he and I were pretty new. I think I'd only been on the commission a few months at that point. So that's how far this goes. It was sent to Mass Historic for review. They sent back a comment saying, look, this is too much of a departure from the standard format. Please redo it. Well, they did, but it took them a long time to do it. And they didn't send a truly finished, revised version until I don't have the timeline in front of me, but quite a bit later. So anyway, we're not going to review it or anything tonight. I just wanted to, this is just an FYI that this will be coming up. And because so many of you are new to the matter, new to the, have not heard all this, I will give you some background information on it so you understand what went on, because I'm expecting that Mass Historic, when they get finished reviewing it, may have some changes and stuff. And typically what we then do is bring it back to the city, which the Historical Commission will review it again, make sure that we're okay with any changes that have been made. That's usually not a problem because Mass Historic isn't going to do anything that's more lenient than anything we've done. Usually it's the opposite. Then it gets signed off by the city council and all that good stuff, and then I think it goes back to I think Mass Historic will do like a pre-approval letter, basically saying that if you guys that we're okay with this version, we'll sign off on it if you do. So we meaning the city signs off on it, and then it goes back to Mass Historical Commission. They sign off on it, and then it gets filed at the registry, and then it's done. I'd really very much like to get this PR done before I die. So or the end of the year, whichever comes first. Sorry, a little dark humor there. Anyway, so that's going to be coming up. I've been working on that quite a bit, and so be more to come on that. We do have another bit of formal business, and that's the approval of the minutes or revised minutes from the 13th of October. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from 13th of October? I hope.
I can make that motion.
Okay, I was going to say, Biff, don't just smile, make a motion. Is that seconded?
I second it, Andrew.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Okay, your vote, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second. And Biff?
Yes.
Okay. And Mark?
Well, technically I was not there, but I'll approve them for the last.
Well, I'm going to mark you as absent. And Chris, you weren't here either, right?
Right.
Okay. And Joe, I don't think you were here either, were you? Oh, were you?
Yes, I was. Yes.
Oh, you were. Okay. And are you okay with the minutes are okay?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And the chair is yes. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4 affirmative votes. The minutes are approved with the necessary 4 votes. Okay. The only thing I have left, unless anyone has any last comments, is a motion to adjourn. Anyone have anything? If not, someone is free to make such a motion.
So moved. Mark.
Okay, Mark. Okay. Is that seconded?
Andrew,
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
second.
Okay. So your vote, Mr. Bernhardt?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Baus?
Yes.
Okay, Mark Sandron?
Yes.
Yes, you're here and can vote for that one. Chris Fay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Joe Morgan?
Yes.
And the chair is in agreement. So without objection, the meeting is adjourned. And I thank you all for your attendance. We wrapped it up fairly early tonight. Thank you, but thanks as always for your participation in this commission. I do plan to make some phone calls to some prospective members to see if we can fill out the empty slot. I think I already told you that Malcolm has not re-upped his membership. He was on the board for quite a while. Okay, well, good night, everyone. Thanks again.
Good
Take
night.
care, gentlemen.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Chair. Good night.
Yep, you're all welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.